At 11:47 on a rainy Tuesday night, Daniel Reed stared at his phone in horror, wishing he could somehow pull a message back through the screen. He had meant to send it to his best friend. Instead, he had sent it to the one person in the city who could fire him with a single sentence, his cold, intimidating CEO, Victoria Hale. The message contained only 6 words, "You look dangerously beautiful when angry." For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the screen showed 2 terrifying words, "Read." Before we continue, if you believe people deserve second chances and that one mistake can sometimes change a life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Your support helps us bring more stories about unexpected kindness, love, and second chances. Daniel threw his phone onto the sofa and covered his face with both hands. He had spent 3 years building a respectable career at Hale Innovations, and everyone knew Victoria Hale as the coldest CEO in the industry. She never raised her voice because she never needed to. Her calm stare could make an entire conference room fall silent. Employees whispered that she had no emotions, no patience, and certainly no interest in romance. Daniel had always respected her from a distance, even though he sometimes wondered what kind of person existed beneath that perfectly controlled exterior. That night, exhausted after working late, he had been texting his friend Marcus about Victoria's furious expression during a meeting. He intended to type a joke about how dangerously attractive she looked when angry. One careless tap had sent it directly to Victoria. Daniel barely had time to breathe before his phone vibrated. He looked at the screen. Victoria had replied with only one word, "Interesting." His stomach dropped. He typed an apology, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. Finally, he sent, "I'm extremely sorry. That message was not meant for you." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then nothing. Daniel convinced himself the nightmare was over. He changed into an old sweatshirt, made coffee, and tried to forget the entire disaster. 5 minutes later, someone knocked on his apartment door. The sound was soft but deliberate. Daniel froze. Nobody visited him that late. He slowly approached the door and looked through the peephole. Victoria Hale was standing outside. She was still wearing the charcoal suit from work, but her hair was slightly damp from the rain. Her expression was unreadable. Daniel felt his heart pounding so violently that he wondered if she could hear it through the door. He opened it halfway. Victoria looked directly at him and calmly said, "Say that again." Daniel nearly forgot how to breathe. She stepped inside after he moved aside, carrying the faint scent of rain and expensive perfume. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Daniel expected anger. He expected a warning, perhaps even a termination notice. Instead, Victoria looked around his tiny apartment and noticed the unpaid bills stacked beside his laptop, the grocery receipt showing he had bought the cheapest items available, and an old framed photograph of Daniel with his younger sister. Something in her expression changed. Daniel apologized again, explaining that he had been working late and had accidentally sent the message to the wrong person. He told her he understood if she wanted to fire him. Victoria remained silent, then asked why he had written it in the first place. Daniel hesitated. The truth felt more dangerous than the mistake. Finally, he admitted that he sometimes thought she was beautiful but would never have had the courage to tell her. Victoria's eyes softened for the briefest moment. Then she surprised him. She laughed. It wasn't the polished laugh he had heard at corporate dinners. It was quiet, genuine, almost shy. Daniel realized he had never seen her laugh before. Victoria told him that everyone at work treated her like she was made of ice. Nobody asked how she was doing. Nobody noticed when she skipped lunch or stayed in her office until midnight. They only saw the CEO, never the woman. She admitted that she had deliberately built that cold image because vulnerability had once cost her everything. Years earlier, Victoria had trusted someone she loved. He had used her private struggles against her, betrayed her financially, and disappeared when her father died. Since then, she had decided that needing anyone was weakness. Daniel listened without interrupting. For the first time, Victoria wasn't the powerful CEO standing above him. She was simply a tired woman sitting across from him, carrying years of loneliness she had never allowed anyone to see. Daniel told her that being strong didn't mean never needing anyone. Sometimes strength meant allowing someone to stay when life became difficult. Victoria looked at him for a long moment and quietly asked whether he really believed that. He said yes. That night, nothing romantic happened. They simply talked until the rain stopped. They talked about childhood dreams, family, failures, fears, and the strange loneliness that could exist even inside a crowded room. When Victoria finally stood to leave, she paused at the door. She told Daniel that the message he had accidentally sent had been the first honest thing anyone had said to her in years. The next morning at work, Daniel expected humiliation. Instead, Victoria walked into the office wearing her usual composed expression and announced a major restructuring plan. Daniel's department would receive funding, and several employees facing layoffs would keep their jobs. Everyone applauded, but Daniel noticed something nobody else did. Victoria glanced at him for half a second and smiled. Their relationship didn't transform overnight. They still argued about projects. She still corrected his reports. He still accidentally drank the last coffee in the office and received her famous cold stare. But slowly, the woman behind the CEO began appearing more often. Victoria started eating lunch with the team. She asked employees about their families. She began leaving the office before midnight. Daniel discovered that she loved terrible romantic movies, hated thunderstorms, and secretly cried whenever she watched stories about people finding their way home. Months passed. One evening, Daniel returned home after a difficult day and found Victoria standing outside his apartment again. This time, she wasn't wearing a business suit. She held 2 cups of coffee and looked nervous. She told him that she had spent years protecting herself from disappointment, but somewhere between an accidental text and a rainy night, he had reminded her that being loved didn't have to mean losing control. Daniel smiled and asked if she was still angry about the message. Victoria stepped closer and said, "No. I think it may be the best mistake anyone has ever made." Then she reached for his hand. Daniel realized that sometimes life doesn't change because we make the perfect decision. Sometimes it changes because we make a mistake, face it honestly, and discover that behind the moment we feared most is a door we never knew was waiting to open. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that everyone deserves a second chance, please like the video, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. And before you leave, comment, "Second chances can change everything," if you believe one unexpected moment can lead someone toward a completely different life. Because sometimes the message you wish you could take back is the very message that leads you to the person who was waiting to hear it.